So we're here tonight in Taupo store to talk about ski boots and how to find the right boot for you.
There's lots of things that we do as boot fitters, but essentially we look at your foot, and people come in with lots of ideas about ski boots. We were talking about people reading reviews on ski boots. It's actually one of those products that you can read the reviews, and the reviews may be great, but it really comes down to the shape of your foot.
Yeah, basically the ski boot will choose your foot. It's not you choosing the boot. Here we have a liner. So the liner will be obviously the inside of the ski boot. When you look at a boot, oh yeah, there we go. We got the shell over here. So we can see there's a certain volume here, a certain volume here, and a volume over there. When you guys come in store, that's all the things we'll look on your foot to make sure we can match the closest ski boot to your foot.
So what are the goals for buying a ski boot? Our goal is to put you in the smallest, most comfortable boot possible. The main reason is that in store is the smallest the boot's ever going to feel. Okay, so the liners, even though they're much more anatomical now, have different layers of foam, and they're designed to break down. The more you pay, the more dense the foam is, the better fit you're going to get. What you're looking for size-wise, people will look at their sizes, and there's UK sizes, European sizes. We will size you up, the shop will size you up, the sales lady, salesperson. We'll look at the size of your foot. That purely is a guide. It's really just for us to know approximately what size you are. Any boot fitter is going to do a shell check. So what we're actually going to do is take the liner out of the boot, and we're actually going to put your foot inside the shell. We will select the boot based on the shape of your foot, and then the first step is we will look at and make sure it's the right size. It's really about putting your foot inside the shell and checking that we have the right amount of space in the heel pocket, okay, and to make sure that the length is right, and also we'll look and check around your foot to make sure it's right.
What you have to keep in mind, it's a pretty long process. So when you come and see us, don't expect to find a ski boot in 10 minutes. We like to spend time to make sure we do the right measurement.
Yeah, we like the company. Come hang out. We'll be hanging out with you for at least 40 minutes, sometimes a couple of hours, but realistically, give it an hour and we can probably tick most things off the list.
Flex is the flexibility of a boot. So when you look at a boot, so you got your liner and then you got a shell. The shell will be more or less rigid. The idea is like when you're a beginner, you want a soft boot to be more forgiving. And then when you're more advanced skier, you want something more precise. And for that, you will have a stiff boot. So usually you got a number that is written on the boot. Those numbers, they will go, give or take, from 65 to 140 for general public. And when you look for a boot, you can take into consideration that number.
Again, you guys at home don't need to be the people picking your flex of boot. There's so many characteristics that we will be looking at as boot fitters. We will be looking at, if you are taller, you put more leverage on the boot. So therefore, we're more likely to put you into a stiffer boot. If you are more aggressive, we'll possibly put you into a stiffer boot. If you are someone who is just skiing on trail, slowly, moderate speeds, cruising with the kids, then we want you to be able to bend your ankles, be comfortable, and it works like suspension. So for a lesser advanced skier, someone who is cruising more, we want a softer boot that allows that to be like suspension in your car. If you are an aggressive race car driver type skier, then we want the boot to be very reactive, but you will feel all the lumps and bumps and be very, very reactive. I guess another feature of boots, the modern day boots, is that we have this plastic, and plastic is rigid. So it's designed to wrap your foot, okay? And once upon a time, a four buckle boot, the reason a four buckle boot works well is it wraps around your foot. So it gives you a nice enveloping feeling. What we do have these days is boots tend to have bi-injection, so two different densities of plastic. And you can see on the boot here, you can see the black part of the boot. It just means that the boot is much softer. This is a much softer type of plastic. So there are a lot of people in New Zealand, because we're all pretty tight in New Zealand, who haven't bought any new boots for 20 years. And probably their biggest battle on the day is just getting their boots on. Boots are much, much easier to get on these days because the plastic is designed to be softer. It has a softer material, okay? And it's the shape of the liner and the shape of the shell that holds your foot. It's not, the plastic doesn't have to be as aggressive. So you should have more comfort.
So generally, when you pop in the boot, you buckle up the boot, and standing straight, your toes will be in a light contact in front of the boot. That is completely normal. Then when you lean forward, your foot will go backward inside the boot, and you'll be able to wiggle your toes. So it's kind of it's a general rule. It's just natural because when you stand straight, so if you put your weight like that, your toes are going forward. But when you ski, and if you're advanced skier, intermediate skier, you will push forward, and therefore your foot will go backward. So it's completely normal if you feel snug inside the boot. A boot that is too big will feel comfortable in chop, but when you're on the mountain, after a couple of turns, it will become like super uncomfortable. Between the start of the day, after a couple of runs, and the end of the day, you will be able to adjust the tension on your buckle. That's one thing I always recommend, is not tightening the boot too much in the first place, because when you start riding, your body is warming up, and then your calves and your feet will expand a little bit. And the big mistake people make will be cranking up the buckle and feeling like numbness after a couple
Real
of
simple goals. Like in the morning, put your boots on. Get your boots somewhere warm, not in the boot of the car. Put them under the top shell, under the heater on. Let them warm up. Put the boot on super lightly, just lightly, one buckle, finger tight. Allow your foot to move around the boot, even to walk into the lift and get into the top of the mountain. Do your first run with your buckle super lightly done up. Your heart starts to pump. You get good circulation. Your foot settles itself into the boot, and then on the second run, you can tighten the boot up. You shouldn't have to do it up again. I see people in the car park get their boots out of the car, out of the boot. It's freezing cold, and then they can't even get it on. And then when they do, they crank their buckles up, and it's just a disaster, because their foot's in the wrong part of the boot. Just little simple tips: keep your boot warm.
There's not one boot that will fit your foot. Now you can see with Nordica, with Tecnica, and other brands, you can find high volume boots. So they call high volume. So on a boot you can see there's low volume, mid volume, and high volume.
So each brand can cater to a range of volumes and a range of shapes. So I would say these days 70% of people will be able to come in. We will be able to find a boot that fits the shape of your foot. There's still 30% of people that will have to do a bit of work on. We recommend any good boot. I can recommend getting a footbed. A footbed just helps complete the fit. This goes inside the boot. We can generally get it right most of the time before we have to do any kind of work. Most boots these days have a liner that we can actually heat mold, so we can actually heat the liner up, and it will take the shape of your foot. So just making the boot comfortable from the start.
The idea is to have the minimum volume inside the boot. So if you wear like big thick sock, the sock will tend to move inside the boot, and that can create some bruise, some friction. Ski socks will come in all different style, and you got anatomical socks. They will follow the shape of your feet and your calves to get the best fit.
Yeah, just to reiterate, our goal is to put you in the smallest, most comfortable pair of boots. Boot liners are much warmer these days as well. So a nice thin sock gets you as close to the shell as possible, and that gives you more control.
There are big difference between adult and kids boots. The main difference will be the height of that part here. And depending the height of the person, you will go on a junior boot or an adult boot.
Every kid is different. It comes down to how tall they are. It really comes down to, again, the shape of their foot. I guess the advice that we give for kids' boots is parents always want to go with growing kids, go a size up. With younger kids, you can kind of do that, or maybe one size. But the problem is that if you go too big, you create more mass in the boot, and it creates a lot of torque. So the closer you can afford to have the fit of the kid, or a child, the more control that child is going to have, so the better they're going to learn and the further they're going to go. Yeah. It sounds like your 12-year-old is what we call a tweener. They're kind of in between an adult and a junior. And I guess the key thing is the boot fits well, they'll ski it. Probably the most important factor really is that they can flex it.
Yeah.
As long as they can flex the boot. So as long as they're not in a boot that's too stiff. An adult boot means you'll be paying a bit more, but if it's the right size and the right shape, that kid's going to benefit from the more control and advancing their skiing a lot better. We can heat the liner and stretch the shells. There is by simply putting a footbed, a molded insole into your boot, that helps relax your foot and actually narrows your foot. Because it takes up the space under your arch, the foot doesn't splay out when you do the buckles up. You don't have to do the buckles as tight.
Yes, so it's kind of it's a bit technical, but we got some boots over there.
Really quickly.
Yeah. If you're into touring and you want a bit more freedom when you go skiing, you can get ski boots with tech inserts and walk mode. So the walk mode will free the back of your boot when you go walking. A lot of people are asking for the walk mode just to walk from the car park to the slopes. That can be an extra feature, but it's
If your foot fits the boot and you are an all-mountain skier, you can buy a boot like this just for all-mountain skiing with the feature of the walk mode. But that's if the boot fits.
Exactly.
If you're touring and you're going backcountry with skins, you will need certain features, will be things like the dinner fit inserts, because there's a special binding that allows you to put skins on the skis and go out. But this is really a specific feature. Great if the boot fits, but don't buy a boot because you like the idea of walking to the bar. Buy a boot because the boot fits. I'm going to be like a broken record. The boot picks you. It's the shape of your foot that picks the boot, not the color, not what you've read about the boot. It's how the boot fits. Spend the money, get the boot that fits your foot the best.
if it was your own skis with your own binding and you just replace the boot for the similar size, it should fit. We can do a small adjustment. If it was not your ski and the binding was not the same size, we will have to remount the binding.
Yeah. But essentially, there's a German safety standard that the distance between the toes and the heels must fit. All boot brands must fit all binding brands. So we can the adjustment we can do, but any boot that you buy within Torpedo7 in New Zealand will have the same setting for the same binding. One of the things I want to touch on, this is my general spiel about boots. This is the most important thing you are going to buy in your skiing career. Like, this is your direct link to your skis. This makes or breaks your ski holiday. So come in, open mind, don't talk about price. If I'm selling boots, I never talk about price. Look at your foot, talk about your skiing, work out your wants, needs, and desires, like where you want to ski, how you want to ski. You can't pick a color, get the right fit, spend the money on this, and then all the other dollars that you spend afterwards are going to be worthwhile. Because I've seen people scrimp and save $100 on their boots, or pick the color, God help me, pick the color that they like. They pick the color that they like, and they go for fashion rather than sense. Big borrow steel skis, eat noodles. But when you go skiing, put your boots on, you know they fit. You are going to be more comfortable. You're going to have more control. You're going to get better value out of your lift pass, and you're going to have more energy for dancing. Upper ski is really important. Because really, that's why.
Exactly.
All right.
Sweet.
See you out there.
Yeah.